This week marks the first major return of terrorism to American soil since those fateful attacks on 9/11/2001. Understanding the Boston Marathon bombings then means putting the timing into perspective. It comes just weeks after Obama officials like Janet Napolitano threatened that sequester budget cuts could trigger new terrorism attacks, and the administration seemed more desperate than ever to pass gun control legislation and bolster Obama's support.
In the last 5 days, our nation has been saturated with nightmarish terrorism. On Monday, 3 people died and 170 more were injured when 2 bombs went off at the Boston Marathon. On Tuesday, a letter mailed to a senator was seized from a congressional mailroom and tested positive for the deadly poison ricin. President Obama officially declared the Boston bombing an act of terrorism.
And given what we now know about what took place, the FBI is investigating it as an act of terrorism. Anytime bombs are used to target innocent civilians, it is an act of terror.
On Wednesday, another ricin letter addressed to the president arrived at the White House, and the FBI canceled a press conference amid conflicting reports that an arrest had been made in Boston. That night, a fertilizer plant north of Waco exploded, killing 14 and injuring over 200.
It's sitting in downtown Oklahoma City. It is unattended. Police believe it was stolen. They do not know what is inside. Of course, the bomb squad is on the scene because the entire country is on edge in light of what happened at the Boston Marathon. This is very near where the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building used to be.
Thursday, the FBI released photographs of the suspected Boston terrorists. Brothers Tamerlan Tsarnaev, 26, and his younger brother Jahar Tsarnaev, 19. That evening, shots rang out on MIT campus and an officer was killed. Reports blamed the suspects. Throughout the night, the mainstream media described what seemed like a Bruckheimer-esque scenes from an action plot where the suspects carjacked a Mercedes at gunpoint and fled from police, reportedly exchanging gunfire and tossing explosive devices out of their car as they attempted to get away. During the exchange, the elder brother Tamerlan was critically wounded. By Friday morning, Americans woke up to find martial law had descended upon Boston. Public travel was suspended, a no-fly zone was instituted, schools were closed, businesses were told not to open, and people were warned to stay inside their homes. SWAT police and light armored tanks carrying automatic weapons filled the streets while helicopters patrolled the skies overhead to search for the 19-year-old suspect. Residents of nearby Watertown were evacuated. By Friday evening, a severely injured Tsarnaev had been taken into custody. No one read him his Miranda rights.
Comments from the Tsarnaev family, including statements from the mother and father of the suspects as well as their aunt, show that they believe the boys weren't capable of such horrific acts. The family members of the Tsarnaev brothers specifically said they believe they were set up.
I'm suspicious that this was staged. Who is interested in this case? When you're blowing up people and you want to bring attention to something for some purpose.
Framed.
Somebody clearly framed them. I don't know who exactly framed them, but they did. They framed them, and then they were so cowardly that they shot the boy dead.
And tracked by the FBI.
I am like 100% sure that this is a set-up. He was controlled by FBI like for 5 years. They knew what my son was doing. They used to come and talk to me.
Indeed, the FBI had contacted older brother Tamerlan some 2 years before in 2011 prior to a trip he would take to Russia. But beyond that, his mother suggested he had been followed and even controlled by the FBI for 3 to 5 years. In August 2011, RT reported that the FBI organizes almost all terror plots in the U.S. They wrote in part, "The FBI has in recent years used trained informants not just to snitch on suspected terrorists, but to set them up from the get-go." A report put together by Mother Jones and the Investigative Reporting Program at the University of California, Berkeley analyzes some striking statistics about the role of FBI informants in terrorism cases that the Bureau has targeted in the decade since 9/11. The report reveals that the FBI regularly infiltrates communities where they suspect terrorist-minded individuals to be engaging with others. Regardless of their intentions, agents are sent in to converse with the community, find suspects that could potentially carry out lone wolf attacks, and then more or less encourage them to do so. By providing weaponry, funds, and a plan, FBI-directed agents will encourage otherwise unwilling participants to plot out terrorist attacks, only to bust them before any events fully materialize.
After 9/11, our nation's security state has taken over our lives. We remember that day every time we are treated as guilty until proven innocent just to get on an airplane. We remember it when our First Amendment right to free speech is designated to a free speech zone. We remember it when the government ignores our Fourth Amendment and says it's okay to spy on our communications without a warrant through the Patriot Act. We remember it when we consider the National Defense Authorization Act, which says our government can indefinitely detain and disappear any American citizen it suspects of terrorism without our Fifth Amendment right to due process. We remembered it when Attorney General Eric Holder told Senator Rand Paul that drones could be used to kill American citizens if the White House believed them to be engaged in combat. The NDAA already designated the entire world, including the United States, a battlefield.
The drone strikes on Anwar al-Awlaki were partly to weaken the protections against American citizens allegedly engaged in terrorism overseas. Meanwhile, talk had already been floated of delegitimizing American rights here on American soil. Under this semantical game, American citizens could be considered enemy combatants and stripped of all their rights for almost any reason, as long as a national security pretense is claimed. It could make vulnerable political dissidents and free speech advocates along with people who may actually pose a threat to this country. But who is watching the watchers, and who will restrict the usurpation of power by the federal government, by Homeland Security, and other entities who tell us they have our safety in mind, while we all know that no amount of security measures can ever guarantee safety?
The Boston Marathon had activated a mass casualty plan beforehand, and a drill was going on the morning of the race. On record, the Boston Marathon was protected by the Boston Police Department, including undercover cops in the crowd, over 450 Massachusetts National Guard, spotters on the roof, bomb-sniffing dogs at the beginning and end of the race, private military contractors, and yet officials still said the bomb, quote, went off without warning.
Reporter Tony Cartalucci posted on his Land Destroyer blog photos that were posted to Flickr showing in high def the role of, quote, contractors who stood near the bomb and then across from it at the Boston Marathon before talking with FBI bomb squad members. Who are they and exactly what were they involved in? Let's take a look at these photos in detail. The first one shows the two contractors shown here in the back of the screen wearing backpacks as well as communications gear in their ears, standing near this temporary wooden structure not far from where the bomb went off. Later you could see the area where the bomb blasted was clearly next to where they were standing near this temporary wooden structure. After the bomb's blast, they were seen standing across the street and behind the barricades, again talking through their communications gear and standing within the containment zone established by police, event coordinators, and National Guards members. Later, photographs revealed that an unmarked SUV arrived not far from where the original contractors stood. A man wearing the same clothing as the unidentified contractors walked up to the unmarked SUV. Later, there appears to be a contractor talking to whoever's inside this emergency vehicle, while other contractors are seen speaking with FBI bomb squad. So were these contractors working with the FBI bomb squad? Were they involved in monitoring the two suspects who would later be blamed for the attack? Were they involved in planting the bomb? Why didn't they do anything to stop it?
While people are swallowing the official story without asking any questions, the overarching reality is this. We know that 9/11 changed our lives forever. The government has spent trillions of dollars. It formed the Department of Homeland Security with its ever-increasing stockpile of bullets, armored tanks, bulletproof checkpoints, and predator drones. It's TSA that pats everyone down like a criminal who attempts to get on a plane, and has expanded checkpoints to highways and public events, even though they have never once caught a single terrorist. Security measures launched by the NSA include the formation of U.S. Cybercom and a $2 billion data hub in Utah to spy on Americans. And now the right to bear arms has been challenged as the government swears we don't need guns to protect ourselves because the state will keep us safe. Our nation has given up liberty for the illusion of security. They have set up a system that automates a ratcheted fear response to any threat, real or imagined, guaranteeing more power will be handed over to the state without question on the mere promise of keeping us safe. Has it worked? The real question in the wake of the Boston Marathon tragedy is this: how much more freedom will we surrender?
For True Stream Media, I'm Aaron Dykes, and she's Melissa Milton.